Hello, my name is Adam Lopez, and today I will be presenting a Cyber Threat Intelligence Plan, or CTIP, for our organization that resides within the financial technology sector. Before we begin, I would like to review the agenda and topics that will be covered throughout the presentation. In order to develop a CTIP, we must understand what intelligence is and how it differs and relates to cyber threat intelligence. We will also discuss the current financial threat landscape and why it is important to stay informed of the latest and most sophisticated attacks and threat actors. Next, we will look at the threat actors to focus on that are most likely to target our organization and what they possess in terms of intentions and capabilities. It is also important to define the potential attack methods these threat actors use to conduct attacks, and we will use a real-world case study to help in identifying areas of focus. I will also review the cyber kill chain and how it can be used as a framework to analyze a cyber attack and help to quantify not only the impact of an attack, but the methodology and attack lifecycle process. We will discuss lessons learned through analysis of real-world case studies and intelligence gathered during the development of this CTIP, and we'll close with the recommendations that the organization can adopt and implement to establish a proactive approach to risk mitigation related to cyber threats through cyber threat intelligence. Intelligence has traditionally been viewed from a government perspective as the collection and processing of information on foreign countries or adversaries that may pose a threat to our nation, its people, and its interests. In the private sector, intelligence has been associated with competitive advantage and the gathering of information on your organization's competitive environment. This may include the market itself, businesses that compete directly with your organization, as well as intelligence on your consumers. According to Gartner, threat intelligence is evidence-based knowledge including context, mechanisms, indicators, implications, and actionable advice about an existing or emerging menace or hazard to assets that can be used to inform decisions regarding the subject's response to that menace or hazard. As we look at the pillars of cybersecurity on the slide, threat intelligence can be used to provide visibility and context, as well as drive strategy and actions around the prevention and detection of threats, a vulnerability management program, which includes the patching of vulnerabilities, third-party cyber risk associated with the vendors in which we conduct business with, our incident response plan and the actions we take during a security event or incident, security awareness and training of our employees and the security culture we seek throughout the organization. And lastly, cyber threat intelligence provides insight into the tactics, techniques, and patterns of threat actors, and from this intelligence, we are able to refine and enhance each of the previous areas just mentioned. Intelligence is created, and we must understand how data and information is collected and analyzed, which results in actionable intelligence that can influence outcomes and strategy. By collecting all available sources of intelligence, we are presented with noise, which includes all raw telemetry without filtering of any kind. Once filtering and categorization have been applied, we are left with data which we can use to gather information based on a set of conditions or parameters against that data. At this stage, we shape the data to provide us with justification and reasoning based on what it is we are looking for. As a simple example, we may have data of user behavior that includes IP addresses, visited, and timestamps to delineate when the activity took place. By correlating these two sets of data, we can derive patterns of user web browsing that lead to information on user behavior. Lastly, intelligence provides us with actionable outcomes that can drive decisions. To expand upon the previous example, if we have the geolocation and reputation of the IP data, we now have intelligence that can be used to understand where this traffic is generated and whether or not it is associated with specific adversaries or malicious domains. This intelligence can influence how we mitigate against this type of activity and provides insight into potential threats we may be exposing ourselves to. Now that we understand the role of intelligence and how cyber threat intelligence can be used, we will define a cyber threat intelligence plan. A CTIP is a documented assessment of the threat landscape associated with the organization. It highlights potential risks, threats, and provides a plan for mitigation and response using available intelligence sources. We will look to identify the threat actors that are most likely to target our organization, use intelligence to understand their intentions and capabilities, and highlight the attack methods most commonly used so that we may enable the proper defense mechanisms and risk mitigation techniques. In developing a CTIP, we need to understand the relevant threat landscape for the industry we operate in. As part of that landscape, it is best to understand the targets, threat actors, and tools used in conducting cyber attacks. These stats, pulled from the Verizon Breach Report, highlight a few key metrics. First, threat actors are targeting small and mid-sized institutions. The majority of breaches are perpetrated by actors outside of the organization, with most of them being associated with organized crime groups. And lastly, there is a continuing increase in the methods used by attackers, including fileless malware and sophisticated payloads that look to evade traditional defense mechanisms. So what threat actors should the organization focus on? We should understand the threat actors and organized crime groups that target the financial industry, along with those that look to target the organization itself. External threat intelligence, and specifically deep and dark web intelligence, or as I like to refer to the deep and dark web as the Silicon Valley of the criminal underground, can provide insight into those looking to stage attacks against us through chat forums and underground discussion boards of where this activity is often planned and discussed. In addition, threat actors by business relevance can help the organization to tailor risk mitigation techniques. For example, threat actors targeting ATMs versus those who look to launder money through mule accounts may shape the way in which we defend against such attacks. Through the development of this CTIP, we have identified the following threat actors that are most likely to conduct cybercrime against the organization. These include organized cybercriminal groups. These criminal groups consist of individuals and sophisticated criminal enterprises that steal personal information and extort victims for financial gain. These threat actors are of greatest risk to the organization as we are directly involved in the movement of money and provide financial technologies to enable financial institutions to conduct business. They are highly motivated by profitability of an attack and will use tried and true methods to gain access to an environment or harvest credentials leading to the compromise of financial accounts. Next is the lone wolf. These are individuals who target community banks and credit unions and operate alone. These threat actors will look for low-hanging fruit and are hard to track and find. They will often use the cybercrime as a service model and are financially motivated. Lastly are the state-sponsored actor. The nation-state threat actor targets any and all organizations. While they usually do not have immediate financial motivation, the attacks are often targeted and motivated by political or economic gain. This threat actor has interest in financial institutions and infrastructure and looks to achieve and maintain an ongoing access to the targeted network. Understanding what motivates threat actors, the techniques they use, and the types of targets they seek provides tremendous value to the organization. Just like wanting to understand our competitors to the best of our ability, we also want to truly understand our adversaries and why they target us, as well as how they conduct attacks against us. You will notice that our targeted threat actors are likely motivated by financial gain, with the exception of the state-sponsored actor, but use varying techniques to conduct attacks. Organized crime groups usually rely on known vulnerabilities and phishing attacks, while lone wolves often buy their attacks in the form of malware as a service. State-sponsored actors are almost always interested in laying low and gaining as much intelligence themselves to further their political or economic agenda. They conduct attacks using zero-day exploits and targeted phishing attacks as they usually have very clear goals and objectives. Notice that the nation-state threat actors target larger institutions, and this is generally due to the size and scope of the institution and the amount of intelligence and potential disruption or chaos the threat actor can generate. Now that we have clearly identified who our targeted threat actors are and understand the techniques they use to conduct attacks, we can evaluate potential attack methods. Phishing continues to be the most common attack method as a means of compromising an account or system and then dropping a payload via malware or ransomware. Common phishing attack methods include malicious macros embedded in Word documents delivered via spear phishing, or conducting phishing campaigns using links to zip files hosted on OneDrive. Distributed denial of service or DDoS attacks remain popular and have increased since the discovery of COVID-19. A growing number of botnets are taking advantage of increased attack surfaces as organizations add technology such as Internet of Things devices. Experts assess that the emergence of new DDoS bots at an increasing regularity attributes to the changes in the financial threat landscape. With the recent increase in online and mobile banking, the FBI has announced an increase in malicious banking apps designed to trick users to download them, enabling attackers to steal sensitive banking information. Cybercriminals also use lists of stolen account credentials to gain unauthorized access to user accounts by automating login requests against an online banking web application. This is called credential stuffing. Furthermore, DDoS attacks are being launched as a distraction to conduct credential stuffing attacks or to exploit other forms of web-based vulnerabilities. Using a framework to understand the various phases of a cyber attack can help in defending and thwarting an attack, as well as performing a post-mortem analysis. The cyber kill chain provides a 7-step process that highlights the phases of an attack and include reconnaissance, weaponization, delivery, exploitation, installation, command and control, and actions on objectives. In June of 2017, Maersk, a Danish shipping company, experienced a cyber attack at a scale that had never been seen before. Infected with malware known as NotPetya, the organization suffered hundreds of millions of dollars in damages, along with other companies, as the malware wreaked havoc across the globe. NotPetya utilizes two exploits, an SMB v1 vulnerability named Eternal Blue, and an open source application Mimikatz, which allows users to view and save authentication credentials. The attack has been attributed to the Russian hacker group Sandworm based on analysis of behaviors and techniques. However, Russia has denied any involvement. It is believed that the Russian state actors targeted a popular Ukrainian accounting package called MEDoc. The software update process had been compromised, providing a backdoor onto numerous users of the software package. By analyzing a case study, we can use the framework as a way to gain knowledge of the attack, what went right, what went wrong, and come away with lessons learned in how to prevent such attacks from happening in the future, and implementing risk mitigation mechanisms that will limit their impact. Through the development of this CTIP and assessing real-world case studies, we have come away with the following lessons learned. No company is immune to a breach, and you are only as strong as your weakest link. You must audit for use of outdated and antiquated technologies and methods that may leave you vulnerable to attack. Implementing robust security policies and procedures are fundamental to a sound security program. And most breaches are preventable, and organizations should study past incidents and use frameworks like the cyber kill chain as a guide for continuous improvement and further risk mitigation. And lastly, accountability, communication, and transparency are 3 pillars to incorporate into an efficient security program. Understanding the threat landscape, threat actor profiles, and attack methods most likely to be used against the organization can help shape the way you protect against them. By integrating various solutions and defense tactics into the overall security program, we will generate a more mature security posture and one that provides visibility across our network and gives insight into the types of attacks we are facing and by whom they are being conducted by. The following recommendations look to combat the threat actors and attack methods outlined in this report. Internally, we must develop and deploy a robust vulnerability and patch management solution to combat threat actors taking advantage of known vulnerabilities and unpatched systems. We must also practice good cyber hygiene by implementing a change management process and a regular audit cadence for misconfigurations in assets and security controls. In addition, we need to integrate the cyber kill chain framework into security programs to study and understand tactics, techniques, and procedures that targeted threat actors use against the organization. Externally, we need to ingest validated threat intelligence feeds into internal threat intelligence platforms that can be curated by the organization's solution. In addition, we should subscribe to third-party external threat monitoring solutions that incorporate lookalike domains, credentials and credit card information, rogue applications, and social media impersonation. The combination of the recommendations above will help to protect the organization against cyber attacks and provides actionable outcomes from the intelligence sources procured. Thank you for your time, and I hope you found this presentation to be insightful and worthwhile.